Grand Rising, Grand Rising.
Grand Rising Cleopatra Sophia the Bodhi. Yo, I'm just stumbling over my words. Oh my goodness.
That was so close though. It was. It was
I got
very
the Bodhi
close.
right, but I really
Right?
messed up
Yeah,
on
you got
the
that one.
most obvious one.
It happens like
Must be
that.
the butterflies.
No worries. Well, it is a lot going on. This energy is very, very different. It's not normal in my opinion, and I'm not really sure how people are managing it. It definitely feels like the training wheels are off, and this is prime time.
Yes,
So this
yes,
is a
indeed.
blind topic. I need
Tis the
to
season.
yeah, yeah. Oh, and that's exactly why. That's exactly why, because this is the season. So let me give you a little bit of background on how this concept came up, because you and I have been talking about like this weird energy and why it's like this, what's going on, what are other people experiencing. And so I was having a conversation with my friend, and she and I were again profiling the boomers in general. And like I said, she's a Gen Xer. So in her assessment, right, the boomers hate the Gen Xers. Like, they don't really so much care about the millennials, and the Gen Zers don't even exist to them. But they really, really hate the Gen Xers. And so she was telling me this story about some things that happened with her growing up, and just how awful this stuff was. And it's like, wow, these people, they really don't like y'all. And it's there's not even a reason for it. So as I was like
And
pondering
she's
that,
Gen
like,
X?
why? Yeah, she's a Gen X. She's a older Gen. Well, yeah, she's Gen X. She's right in the middle. Um, well, I think she's an older Gen Xer. Because though, actually, it's funny, since I'm talking about this, the generations aren't exact. Like, it really depends on. There's multiple factors. So, like, the boomers, I always talk about them as being Pluto and Leo. But if they have Libra up to Virgo, if they have Virgo up to 15 degrees, like from 0 to 15 degrees, Pluto in Virgo up to 15 degrees, that 0 to 15 degrees of Virgo, they all act like boomers. And the Gen Xers is really Pluto and Libra. But if they're 15 degrees of Virgo and younger, as far as their Pluto degree is, they actually all act very similar. So that is like, they just split them up like a little bit differently. But basically, if you're a Pluto and Scorpio, you're a millennial. Like, my Pluto is at the very beginning of Scorpio, so I'm just under the Gen Xers. So a lot of people think that I'm in Gen X. I can mix in with them really good, but I'm way more like a standard, like, millennial, which would be Pluto and like I said, Pluto and Scorpio, and part of Pluto in Sagittarius, especially like from 0 to 15 degrees, because Pluto just goes in normal order. But if your Pluto is in Sagittarius from if your Pluto is in Capricorn, that's real Gen Zers, Pluto and Capricorn. But if you're 15 degrees of your Pluto is 15 degrees of Sagittarius to the end of Sagittarius, you pretty much act like a Gen Zer. So it's the generations are about 20, like 24 5 years, because Pluto isn't assigned for 20 years, I do believe. Yeah, Pluto isn't assigned for 20 years, so it's about 30 years, which is like we really should be using Scorpio term, I mean, not Scorpio, Saturn terms for this. And maybe I'll re-engineer this with Saturn terms, because Saturn is assigned for 30 years, and that's what we're talking about a 30-year window that makes a generation of people. So if you are Somebody who is 30 years older than you is probably going to be really similar to you. 30 years older than you or 30 years younger than you. But you really can't see it until you get older. Because now I'm 40, I can really see it. Like, my daughter is more like me, which I'm a millennial, but she's more like me than like a Gen Zer. And she probably can't really see it, but I can clearly see it compared to her classmates that she's more like me than one of these other Gen Zers. And some of the other Gen Zers, I can tell they're very young in their behavior. So that's a whole nother thing. And then you have Gen Alpha, which is this group that's coming up now, and they're really the reset. So that's Pluto, with people who have Pluto at I mean yeah Pluto at the end of Capricorn, like the last 15 degrees of Capricorn, and people who have Pluto in Aquarius, where Pluto is in Aquarius right now. These are Gen Alpha. So mine is like a 30-year window. Most other people, when they talk about generations, they don't have a astrological way of describing it. Um, I don't even remember where I was supposed to be going with this. Oh, the people hater. So they just really treat, like, the boomers treated the Gen Xers really, really, really bad. And so we just got talking about, in general, how so many people feel entitled. Like, because I told you privately, but I'll just put it here. Oprah had done a podcast where she was saying to people that the fact that these people believe that, the they think that it's a internet trend for people to ghost their boomer parents, because what's happening is Medicaid, I had to send you the video, but Medicaid, and these other insurance companies are actually cutting off benefits to a lot of these boomers. So whereas they thought they were going to get unlimited benefits forever, for their medical and for all this stuff, because, oh, we paid into the system and we built the system and all of this stuff, a lot of them are being cut off. And so what's happening is a lot of states, a few states, probably blue states, passed laws saying that if your parents are accrue medical bills, you as the child are responsible for them, even if you don't talk to them. Again, no contact, you don't have contact with them. Even if you've never had contact with them, they will find you and send you the bill. And so when my friend sent that to me, I was like, oh my gosh, these boomers are really trying to get Gen X to take themselves out. Because how would you feel if someone you know never liked you, never cared about you, you needed money, and they let you starve, basically, because that's what a lot of these boomers have done to their Gen X children. And the Gen X, people have just been trying to pull themselves up by their bootstraps for their whole lives, when the whole system is rigged. And now, at the end of their parents' life, who they've spent all this time trying to avoid, they're going to get a bill for them to stay in these nursing homes. That's literally what they're doing to them. And it is egregious. It's egregious. These boomers believe, and it's not just the boomers, it's a lot of these um I call them race warriors, because they're not immigrants. People who immigrate to this country, they want to be here. They want to live like an American. I call these people race warriors. They're just here for the benefits, like this whole Somalian community thing that's going on in Minnesota. They're not here to be um, upstanding members of the community. They're here to bring Minneapolis or Somalia to Minnesota. And so these people also feel entitled. They've been getting all kinds of benefits. And you had people like saying, hey, these people are benefits. And then you have the Democrats gaslighting, saying, no, 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 they're not getting any benefits. That's not what's happening, so on and so forth. And it's like, no, like, we know that this is happening. And so we're trying to figure out, like, what would you call this? Like, what energy is this? And I had talked to you about this the other day when I was saying, Talking about the financial system and how do you actually remedy it. And this is basically the crux of the issue. You have people who feel like they're entitled to you as an individual taking care of them versus people being compensated, properly compensated for their labor that they've put in. So the example we had of this was my friend had her son over for Thanksgiving and his family, and anyway, he ended up like basically saying to her like, I want to, because of everything that you've done for me and for my family, I want to financially take care of you so that you don't have to be under so much stress. And that wasn't something, she didn't ask for that. Like, she wasn't asking for it, she wasn't looking for it. But it was offered to her as a result of the labor that she put into, again, raising your child. And so what these boomers want is they want the benefits that come along with putting in the work of raising a child without having done any of the work, because they don't really care about their kids. And so there's an obvious difference between that and this, like between entitlements and compensation. Everyone is due compensation for their labor. Like, nobody should, like, if you give birth, it's called labor, and the compensation that you're given as a result of your labor is you have a baby. Like, that's your compensation. You have brought a new life. You have extended your legacy. You have the capacity to live on now forever, because if that child has a child and that child has a child and child has a child, now your blood is basically a part of this land. It's carrying on over many generations. Like, that is your compensation. And there's, financial things that come along with engaging in those kind of things. But these boomers haven't done anything, to me. A lot of them, not everyone obviously, but a lot of them have not done the spiritual work necessary to protect people from the things that they've been going through. There was the, and I've been said this, it was the boomers who were supposed to protect us from, this evil. And instead of protecting us from this evil, this scamming and all this stuff, a lot of them, they invested their money in the stock market. They bought houses. Somebody once said, the boomers paid for houses with 5 raspberries and a nickel. Like, the houses cost nothing. Some of them didn't pay anything because their parents and their grandparents were, quote unquote, gifted land from the United States government via illegal land grabs. So, like, a lot of these people, they've done nothing but seen their accounts and stuff increase. Meanwhile, their children were suffering. Like, we got latchkey kids from Gen X. There was no such, I mean, you and I don't know anything about that, but I know of children whose parents just give them a key, and whenever they get home, they open the door, they prepare their own food and all that. These kids were latchkey kids at age 5. I can't imagine my 5-year-old son giving him a key and saying, okay, come and go, you go to school, and when you get done with school, come home and let yourself in. I can't imagine that. Like, in my mind, there's no like scenario where that's okay. But that's what they were doing to these kids. Putting them, not even putting them on the school bus, like barely putting them on the school bus, barely making sure they get to school, not really like making them lunch. So they had to eat the school lunches. And then saying, when you get off the bus, take your key out, unlock the door, and come in the house. And Lord forbid if they were the 5-year-old, and they were the oldest, that means they might be watching the 2-year-old, the 3-year-old, like after they got home as a 5-year-old. Like, this is like insane what has happened to a lot of people, especially black people. But I know this happened with everyone in this country. It's totally insane. And so there's a huge difference between entitlement and compensation. So let's talk about something like food stamps. To a person who has come to this country with help, like with aid, 9 times out of 10, food stamps or SNAP is an entitlement to them, because when they get here, a lot of these people, they have the whole system set up. They have fill out one application, or someone fills the application out for them. It's automatically approved. If there's issues, language barriers, whatever, they don't have to do anything. All they have to do is show up to the place that they're told to show up, or even when, as soon as they cross the border, they're taken directly to a shop. Someone does all the work from them. They get the card in the mail, and they just start spending. If you're a American and a native born American and you need food stamps, it is compensation. You have to work really hard to get them to give you what they're like. You pay taxes. Like, again, they always act like poor people don't pay taxes. You pay taxes. All you're doing with, especially with food stamps, is just basically getting your taxes rebated to you. So what are you actually, because this is the entitlement programs are paid off of tax money. So if you pay taxes and you get an entitlement, that's your taxes being refunded to you. And so if that's the case, if that's what's happening, then what is the issue with these people who can't even do that? Like, it's very difficult to get any benefits. Don't even talk about Section 8. When I was working with the teen moms in DC, this was the reason why one of my clients got murdered. If you try to get on Section 8, it's going to take about 15 years. Now, mind you, where are you supposed to live for 15 years? Where are you supposed to live for 15 years while you're waiting to get Section 8? It's supposed to be a housing subsidy. You can't even get it if you're, and don't, whatever Biden did with the auto pen, they basically said, okay, we have to house these illegals coming from across the borders and everywhere else before we house Americans, before we house veterans that are homeless living on the street. They house them first. So all these, this is the big divide that I see, that is very, very hard to put in. America is like, it's two totally separate stories being told at one time. You have the part of the story where all these people are receiving entitlements, and then you have the part of the story where people are just trying to get their proper compensation. And these two things are incompatible. We cannot have a country where entitlements are given to people who have no idea what the culture is like. And then if you are a person who's here and who is suffering as a result of these parasite equity and these banks destroying this country, you can't even get proper compensation for your labor. And this is where the huge divide is, energetically. Like, the people who view America as the land of entitlements versus the people who are just trying to get from America proper compensation.
Nice. Yeah, this is well said in terms of the fact, and we're seeing that with what was it, the Somalians? I think it's the
Yes,
Somalians
yes,
and their whole now I don't think a lot of money was sent back to the terrorists. Now, money was sent back home for sure. Obviously, immigrant families, like, that's why they come to the US, is they make dollars here and then they send money back home. But regardless, it's still very good propaganda. It's very convincing to be able to, whether true or not, to basically say that, hey, look at these immigrants that have been taking these entitlements and sending it abroad. Whereas, obviously, as you said, the priority has been these refugees, which, I mean, we saw that in New York, where New York was
right,
housing all these illegal immigrants. Meanwhile, there's homeless people in the streets.
right,
Meanwhile, there's people waiting for Section 8 housing. Like, there has been money. Well, and I think one of the main reasons for this is, um, one, cheap labor,
right.
and two, when it comes to voting, like, if
Yes,
they know that, and then in this case, I think it would be when it comes to black people in general in the US, like, if either political party knows how easy like, if they have them in the bag, their vote doesn't really matter. Now,
right,
obviously, in more narrow races, the vote does matter, but overall, the Democrats basically already know that they have black people more or less in the bag. So they have been, for the last I would say maybe at least probably 10, 20, 30 years, maybe even longer, they they didn't really have to compensate the 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 black population because, well, they were able to just use propaganda to
Right.
convince them that the Democrats were on their side. Now, what's happening is that the the Republicans or the conservatives, as well as just because society is becoming so chaotic, is now becoming more of an interest to black people. And there's the energy of the Democrats is becoming too white, and it's becoming
Right.
not only just too white, but it's becoming like very parasitic. It's becoming very distorted, and as a result, there's now the ability to essentially the black people are up for grabs again, and because of that, uh, there is now an opportunity for the right, which, it's, I guess, the Republicans, but it's not even the Republicans, just
It's really not.
the the energy that is that side, whatever that even is basically what's happening is black people are realizing that the Democrats really ain't it. They're
Right.
not really that interested in the Republicans either.
No.
So they are kind of like they are just basically up for whoever is going to compensate them,
Right. And
whoever's going to
nobody is.
provide for them.
Nobody is. This is the whole issue. Nobody is trying to be. Remember what I said about the special election. They didn't even realize that blacks don't care. It's just like this whole shopping season, this whole thing. They don't even realize that black people were not shopping. Like I swear to goodness, I'm like, this propaganda is so bad. They literally believe that the numbers are up for Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all this stuff because people have money to spend. Like people don't have money to spend. Prices are up. Like I don't understand why these people don't get it. Everything is more expensive. There are not prices are not going down. Like they haven't gone down. They believe that they have for some strange reason, but the truth is people are still paying the same amount they've been paying but more because prices went up. And so, of course, you're going to have increased revenue on Black Friday when the prices have gone up. It's one guy, he was like, "Oh, we have $1 billion holiday season." I'm like, if people have to spend $1 billion over the holidays just to have a good holiday season, that's a problem. Like they're not understanding what the problem is, and you can't get people who don't like they don't have the pulse of the people to understand what's going on. To date, Scott Pressler is the only one who's out there like Republicans are going to lose. They're losing and they're going to lose. He's the only one telling the truth. Everyone else is lying and deceiving themselves. Like, no, Republicans are going to lose. Now, are Democrats going to win? I'm not so sure about that either. I don't know how this plays out for them when so many of their voters are getting ready to be wiped off the books. So I'm not sure that this is going to play out so well for them either. But is it going to be a clean win for the Republicans? Absolutely not. Not possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're gonna see in the upcoming elections, both the one next year, but also just the ones that continue, is a total destruction of the political parties. It's done.
Right.
It's over. The
Yeah.
Republicans and the Democrats are done because and what made me really realize that is Mamdani and Trump coming together. These are
Mm.
supposed to be two, like, uh, at least politically speaking, sworn enemies, and they are out here meet meeting, shaking hands, talking
Right.
about we're going to do what's best for New York. We love New York. New York needs help when it comes to affordability, when it comes to this, that, housing, blah blah blah. So that was a huge step forward because in the past that would have never happened. So what that tells me
Right.
is that we're moving away from, oh, I'm Republican, or, me, a politician, I'm Republican, I'm just going to side with the Republicans, and vice versa. Now it's going to be moving towards obviously, which is what it should have been, which I think is the philosopher kings, where the best politicians, the best leaders are the philosopher kings, are the ones that are able to actually execute. Because we're at a
Right.
point now where these career bureaucrats, these career lawyers that are politicians, like they're not getting shit done. And the situation on the ground is getting so intense and in many ways, I guess, so chaotic that the population is going to vote in those that say they're going to bring results and then actually bring results. It's not enough to say, hey, like Obama, hey, we're going to bring change and no change comes. Like that's not good enough.
Right.
That's not good enough
Right.
anymore because the country is not doesn't have the luxury to be riding its coattails. For many decades it did, and that's how the globalists were able to consolidate their power, build their empires. But that was all nice. That was, the heyday for them is done. It's over.
Right. It's over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
they're
the
done.
country is not in a predicament to be able to continue allowing failure to persist. And that's why people like Trump, Mamdani are gaining significant amounts of power because it's not about the political party anymore. It's about the
Right.
individual. It's about the
Right.
human.
They have to stand on business.
Uh-huh.
And
And
that's
you
what I
see
mean.
with Green, right? She's standing
Right.
on everyone's standing on everyone has to stand on
Stephanie
business.
too. Did you see what Stephanie said?
Is that
Elise.
the girl? Is that the
Yeah, she's a female, Elise Stefanik. She's a New York representative. She went off on Johnson because they were trying to pass the NDAA basically and leaving all the provisions that allow them to keep spying on everyone. And she was like,
Mm.
nah, I wrote a thing to take that out. So she had sent him a text message. He gonna get on the little thing and say, oh well, she should just call me, and we can figure this out. And she sent him a tweet and she was like, no, I already told you, I'm not
Mm.
voting for an NDAA unless you guys strip out their ability to do this spying. You
Right.
have to take it out. And
Mm.
that's
And this
she's
this
like, I'm
was
gonna
this
vote
week?
no.
This was
This
recently?
was today.
Oh, wow.
This was today. This is going on
Yeah, I
right
mean
now. She said, I will vote no
uh-huh.
to, and the NDAA funds the military,
Yep.
the FBI, and the
NSA.
CIA.
NSA?
NSA too.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I won't sign it. I'm like, oh, you never hear
No,
politicians
no.
taking positions like
No,
that.
because
Oh,
they're
I'm not gonna
weak.
sign it.
They're weak. These
Yeah, they're very
politicians
weak.
have been weak
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, but now the incentives have changed. The incentives are changing. So in the past, you were highly incentivized to be a weak politician. Now it's the opposite. The ones
Right.
who have the backbone, the public is going to love. These people that they're like, "Oh, well, I just voted for my party." Like
Mm-hmm.
what's his name? The guy from Pennsylvania, Fetterman.
Fetterman,
He's
yeah,
built
he's
significant
done.
clout. Well, I think he's built significant clout because he's not just a Democrat voter. Like,
No, but he haven't voted. He have not voted against the Democrats. He has not voted with the Republicans. He's just talked a good talk. He has not actually done it, and people are watching him like,
well, let's see what he does. I mean, this is a
yeah. Let's
good
see what
case
he
study. Let's see
does.
what he does the next 6 months because if because the thing is, yeah, obviously, like these most of these politicians, like if they start flipping in terms of if they start getting a backbone, that's when you know it's getting real. Obviously,
Yeah,
these younger ones, yeah, they're gonna be fiery. Yeah, they're gonna be this, they're gonna be that. But the 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 fiery ones, the more fiery ones there are, it's a good sign that the ones that have been there in power for a while are feeling the heat. And I think that's
right,
what's happening is like with I mean with the Republicans right now, where um, there is a lot of instability in terms of what the voters are going to do if they're going to vote for Trump or not, or in support of Trump or not. Is like the Epstein. I think the Epstein files is a good
right,
example where
right,
it was like you have the Republicans, basically the establishment saying no, 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 and the politicians are like, "Fuck, I got to vote for it." I
Right,
can't. This is too. This is a political bomb if I vote against it. So
right.
there's going to be
And
more of these
Johnson
types
effed
of
that up
votes.
too.
Hmm?
Johnson effed that up too. He basically, after they voted on it, said, "Well, we're not for national security purposes. We're not going to release some things. You can't do that. You just destroyed your whole point."
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. No, these people are just full of shit. And that's fine. That's
Oh
fine
well, yeah,
because where we're headed, like people that are full of shit are taken out. They're just not going to be able to hang. The incentives are that they get removed from political office. And if that creates, temporary chaos, great. That doesn't really matter because the the rules of engagement have completely changed and the smart ones
right.
are getting it, but there's not a lot of smart ones. So it's going to take them some time to really get it.
Yeah, and that's why we have to really delineate the difference between um entitlement and compensation. We have to really have our mind like fixed on the differences because otherwise it's really difficult to understand what's going on. Like there are politicians who believe they're entitled to hold their positions, like a Lindsey Graham. He's entitled to that because he's been in that job. Or Mitch McConnell, even better, Nancy Pelosi. They're entitled to run over and over and over again and win without doing anything for the people. And then there's politicians who understand compensation. No, the people elected me to do a job that I need to do, like a MTG. That's why she got out. She's like, nah, the people elected me to get a job done, and y'all are not going to allow me to get the job done. So instead of sitting in this position like I'm entitled to it, let me remove myself because I refuse to be engaged in entitlement politics. Because remember the whole New Deal and all that stuff? That was during the boomers' time. They were the ones that were promised they would be taken care of forever. Nobody else was promised that, just them. And so that's the reason why they're so entitled because there was a baby boom and they had to, in order to, I don't know what they were trying to do. It's just a lot of stuff going on in the 40s and the 50s, but whatever it was they were trying to accomplish, they had, in order to get it, they had to promise the boomers they would take care of them forever. And so they're entitled.
Right. So when it comes to I guess when it comes to so how do we move forward with this compensation and entitlement? Do we like write it out and really kind of make it clear in terms of what is considered compensation, what is considered entitlement, what type of entitlements to remove, what type of compensation to introduce? Because I mean, at this point, it's obviously it's good to have this discussion when it comes to this specific topic, but it's like now now for us it's about okay, like how do we basically like send out the commands and send it out.
Well, the command is no, you are not entitled to to participate in the success of America. Or no, you're not entitled to participate in the success of the empire. Because now we're talking about a totally different thing. These boomers would come in like, okay, look at a Trump. Well, we're out here doing all this work to build this little empire. He's probably would try to come in and say, well, the empire is in America, so it is America. No, it is not. It may be American, but it's not USA government property. This is not property of the United States government. That's why it has to be, it's affiliated with the tribe. So they can't do that kind of thing. So the success that we have as an empire, because as far as the American system, we have to just continue to have our energy removed, and we have to demand individually for compensation for our labor. That in those, I've done enough labor, I deserve the compensation. Period. Like that solves the emotional, physical, spiritual side of it from that perspective. But for the empire, we have to make it very clear there are no entitlements. You will be properly compensated, but there are no entitlements. Everybody has to come with their dowry intact. That's what we're talking about. Your dowry, or for female, is a dowry, right? But the dowry is the money that your father set aside for when you get married. It's your inheritance. So everyone has to come with their inheritance intact. So this goes back to the last conversation we had where we're talking about, hey, you got to get your chart read so I can tell you what your inheritance is so that you can act on it. Because everybody still has their inheritance,
Okay,
their
so
dowries are intact.
so then based on the energy, the charts of the people, we're gonna be able to tell them how they're going to be compensated.
Right, exactly. Because it'll be based on what they already know and love. Basically, it's not like we're not asking, like, for example, if it's a older person who has already done a lot in the community and stuff like that, then they're they're entitled to, I'm not entitled, but they will be compensated for their labor. We can compensate people who didn't labor directly for us because we are acting as the um middleman for the creator, for God. So we know that God would compensate them, so we compensate them. But it's going to be for what you did.
Right.
So if you were a terrible person and we can see that your kids are suffering, no one's happy, you're miserable, and everything else, nah, you ain't did the work, homie. Go back, try and do the work, come back and see us again later. I mean, this is the toll booth. The only way people could even know this is if they literally listen to these videos. This is not even going to be something we have to advertise. We just have to hold it as our position. Look, our position is when you come to the empire, you have to get your chart read. We have to know what your um inheritance is, what your dowry is, so we can advise you on how to use it.
Right.
It's just that simple. That's how we maintain the standard. It's not I don't only reason I brought up brought it up as a topic is to lay out the so that everyone can know where we are. There's a lot of young people like the Gen Zs and all that. They don't understand what's going on. They don't get it because if I'm a millennial, so like I don't tell my kids all this crazy stuff that goes on. I try to tell them enough that they can understand that it's not as easy as they think, but I don't get into all the ups and downs, all of this stuff of all the things that are happening. That's irrelevant. It's not going to make their lives any better to know how much I'm struggling. So I don't get into it. However, these boomers, when they were struggling, everybody knew. They literally never stopped talking about it. I worked really hard. I suffered. I struggled. I this, I that. They never stopped talking about it. And they never follow through with unconditional love. They don't have unconditional love. Their love always comes with conditions. And we just have to focus on not being like that. So we in order to do that, we have to really have an idea of what it looks like. A lot of people don't know what this entitlement thing looks like. They hear the stories of these illegal immigrants and all these immigrants. They hear the stories and stuff like that, but they still don't understand what it looks like. So I only wanted to bring it up so to give a clear like understanding of what it looks like to be an entitled person. And there's people within families, every most families have somebody who's just entitled. They feel like you have to do everything for them. Like you got to wipe their behind because they are just too good for that. And when you deal with these kind of people in your life, you have to understand that it's not your responsibility to pay entitlements to anybody. You just want to compensate people properly for their labor. That's all. It's literally that phrase. Proper compensation for your labor is so clear because compensation could be anything and labor can be anything. It's the part where you didn't labor and so you're demanding money, cash money, when you didn't even labor. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and this is why people are getting what they deserve. Like people are getting the hardest, the dividends of
Right.
what they've put out. And currently it's felt energetically. We are seeing the fruits of our labor energetically, because the system is not yet ready to be able to provide um, the physical to be, because the thing is like uh, there's there's almost like a those that are in alignment, it's very important for them to stay um, as light as possible. And so, as the system is crumbling, as the system collapses, the last thing that you would want a person that is supposed to be light is to be burdened with the physical.
Right.
Whereas the elite of the current reality, or the previous reality, like, they are heavily burdened right now with
Right.
all the chaos that is happening, both in their personal life, in their financial life, in their business life, in their network life. Like, everything about their reality is, whether they see it or not, is collapsing. Chaos is around them. And so this is very heavy. This is very dense energy that these people are having to maneuver through, as they lose connection with the energy of the system. Whereas
Right.
those that have been um, chosen to lead the new world, and to bring forth the new world order, it's very important for them to be as light as possible.
Right.
And so um, this is where I believe a lot of the masses, like, it's because the thing is, like, God wants to make sure that, like, it wouldn't, if you know, if I was out here driving a Lambo, taking pictures in front of my mansion, showing how many hot ass girls I'm with and I hang out, like, it would not be genuine if people were coming to me, flocking to me because of my material things. Like, they did not deserve it. They do not deserve to be, at least initially, part of the empire, if they were interested because of the material things that I have. And
Right.
so, as a result, the social proof is delayed, and it's going to stay delayed until there is some sort of moment where we, aka the individuals leading the charge, like, have a full grasp of how to manage this type of dense energy. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like. I think in many ways
Right.
that kind of means being humble, but it's because it's because the like, if you see right now, the people that are in the Lambos, that are showing off their penthouses, that are basically pushing the whole social proof movement, are just scammers, basically. They're just
Yeah, they're
selling
just scammers.
courses, like,
Mhm.
they're just selling pipe dreams to the masses that clearly need some sort of help. But
Right.
it's there's no depth, there's no meat to it. Meanwhile, we have all the meat, and nobody is interested, nobody cares, they don't, because they
Mm-mm.
don't see the social proof, because they don't, they need to, these people are visible. But in God's kingdom, that's not gonna fly, that's not gonna
No,
fly.
it's really not. I think that the time for social proof is almost here for on our side. Like, it's rapidly coming in. I feel like me, I said the other day that this energy reminded me of when I started college. I mean, not when I started college, but when I was working on my doctorate degree and I just couldn't get anyone to pay attention and all of that. And I had to think about this, like, no, that I have a closer experience to this. This reminds me of when I first started making videos in 2022. And um it was like I was making videos because the only thing I could do was make videos. Like, I didn't, everything was falling apart. The energetically, like, I just wasn't in any sort of control of what was happening. And so I leaned into making videos as a way to channel that energy into something productive. So it's almost like picking up from where I left off in that energy where um it's like I'm making all these videos going through the whole Vulcan cycle, which is 260 days. So that's at a minimum 260 videos plus 260 videos. Plus, I'm going to do a reflection video every day. So that's 260 times three. Plus, each of the set of 13 days has, I have to do a video for that, an introduction. So that's plus 20. So 2, 4, 6, 6, 12, 7. That's like 900 videos in 260 days. Is that right? That would be insane. And so making that commitment, oh, it's 800 videos. 800 videos in 200 in 260 days is insane. And that's what I've committed to. And so it's different. It feels different because the commitment is specific and it's also detailed. It's not so out there. When I started making videos in 2022, I didn't know what I was making them for. So I knew I needed to labor, right? Like, because I wanted to be compensated. I knew I needed to perform a labor. So I was out there performing a labor, but my labor was kind of all over the place. It wasn't focused, direct energy. Now, almost 3 years later, this is very focused. Like, no, I am making videos because I want people to have spiritual freedom. That's what this calendar is. That's what it represents, spiritual freedom. And so if I have to make 800 videos in 260 days for people to see me experience spiritual freedom and what it looks like for me, then that's what I'll do. That's a sacrifice. So when there's a sacrifice being made, compensation has to come along with that. And I can already see it accumulating. Like, that's why I was, been talking about getting your narratives together and stuff like that. When you have a specific goal, like when you have a specific target in mind, and it's not a financial target, but an energetic target, then it's much easier to accomplish the goal in the physical realm than if you don't have a specific energetic target. So in 2022, I didn't have a specific energetic target. I was like, I'm trying to figure out who this guy, the creator, is, the most high. I just want to know who he is, because I don't believe any of these people when they say they know him, because what I've experienced doesn't match what they're saying. And so I have to do something to address that issue. That was my perspective. That's how I looked at it. And so now here we are, like, again, almost 3 years later, and I'm like, no, I want people to have spiritual freedom. That's what it is. Worship the creator in spirit and truth, whichever way you want. Seek the creator wherever he may be found. This is much more specific. So I feel like because my energy was so all over the place in 2022, I wasn't able to achieve the type of success that I wanted. But now I am way more focused on, no, spiritual freedom. No, people should be able to be free. They need to be compensated. They need to see how this energy works. They need to understand that it's not random. Like, okay, so I have an example. I've been working on making my videos, and after we finish, I got a couple more I have to make. So when I was making the videos, I think it was, I don't know if it was the video for today, because we're on day 2 of the cycle. Oh, if you're interested in following along with the cycle, look on my page. I have all the videos and stuff that goes along with it on my YouTube channel. I'm going to have a separate YouTube channel for this, but I'm working on it for right now. But so the point I was making is that I was making some of the videos. In one of the videos, I was talking about the Dare Kadeshi that is over, I call it electricity. I can't remember whether it's today. I don't know where my notes are. I'm not gonna look them up. But there's a Dare Kadeshi that's over electricity. And so this morning when I woke up, which I had a weird dream last night, but this morning when I woke up, I went to look at my electric bill to see if I had to pay anything on it, because I was thinking in my mind, like, oh, I need to make a payment on my electric bill. Let me see if I have to do it now if I have time. Well, I looked at my bill and I was like, oh, okay, I still have money in my account. That was not the case. So when I got home and started making videos, My power went out. And I had said in the video, either I had just said it or I said in the video, if you live in a country where they will literally turn the power out on you, or your country does not have power for all its citizens, that is a country that does not care about its citizens. My power went out. And I was like, holy smokes, this is not a game. Like, this is literally exactly what happened. I think I owed like $20. They turned my power off for $20. $20, which is insane. I just forgot. I looked at the bill and I thought I had a $20 credit, but it's like no, I owe $20. But they turned my power off for $20, and so when you had with like for me to say that and then hear like to say it in a video and then have it happen to me, even though I checked to see like and it just my brain just I was like, no, this is like not an accident. Like this is a clear sign that this is how this energy is flowing. So that's why I say, like, we're not worried about how America's going to resolve their issue. That's not our problem. Our problem is the empire. Let them figure out how they're going to deal with all these entitlements that they've promised everyone. Because we're not promising people any of this stuff. What we are guaranteeing is that you will be compensated for your labor. You're not going to labor in vain because that's what the creator promised us. That's it. If you're over here looking for entitlements, you didn't do any work, but you want to reap the benefits, we don't do that over here. You have to do the spiritual work. You have to invest in yourself and your own spiritual hygiene and well being. It's a must. And if you won't do it, then, I mean, you need to find some other empire to be a part of because there's no way that we can allow people to come into the empire who aren't even willing to invest in their own spiritual hygiene. That's very, very unwise. And that's what America as a whole has done by letting in all of these unassimilated foreigners. If you want to assimilate into our culture, that's cool. Like, I don't have a problem with immigration. Like, I'm not like these white supremacists who are like, oh, we don't want anybody, or some of these other black people, these natives and all, oh, we don't want anybody. No, 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 no. I don't have a problem with immigrants land. That's not the issue. The issue is, are you going to come here and integrate into our culture? If you're not going to come here and integrate your culture into our culture, then we're always going to have an issue because this is the predominant culture of this country. You can't come here with your weird foreign gods and your weird stuff like these Ellis Island babies did when they brought their gangsterism over here. We didn't have gangsterism here. Like, it's funny you were talking about the Mayan pantheon and all those things those people were doing. That's not the same as what these gangster isms that these people bought from like Italy and France and all of their gangsterisms. Like, that's not even the same. These gangsters believe they are God. Like, if you're talking about the Mayan culture or whatever, what they were doing was a part of their worship of God. There's a huge difference. They were making sacrifices to the creator. These people who are these mobsters, and these, um ghetto uh I don't know, these people who came here from the ghettos of Europe and brought their ghettoism here. These people who didn't even know how to eat with utensils and ate with their hands, those kind of people, they can't assimilate with this culture. And so the ones who are entitled are the ones they have no way of assimilating into this culture, and the ones who deserve to be compensated have been outranked by these people who feel like they're entitled to all of the wealth of America, to the inheritance of America, and that's just not going to happen.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, for sure, at least definitely spiritually, an insane amount of entitlement. All these
Yes.
people think that because
Oh my
they
gosh.
went on some retreats or that they've like studied under some fucking teacher, some gurus, they've read books, they've read this, they've done this and that, taken some fucking ayahuasca, some fucking drugs. Like they think that they are entitled to be enlightened. They
Yep.
think that they're entitled to be powerful. But the reality of it is that it doesn't matter what one thinks one is entitled to. It's like show the proof.
Right.
If you are indeed entitled to have these spiritual gifts from having done this quote unquote work, where is it? And it's
Right.
getting to a point now where, and I think this is kind of going off of your topic, where because this system full of golem has collapsed, now it's the incentives are moving away from entitlement to compensation. So now
Right.
you are getting properly compensated for the work that you put in. And it's not about the work you're putting in at your workplace, it's about the work you're putting in the energetic realm. That's what
Right.
your compensation is about. And so all these people out here that act entitled and this and that, they can keep acting entitled, but reality is going to show them what they have, the what they they reap what they sow. And so
Right.
currently, energetically, all of these spiritual people are going nuts. They're going crazy.
Yeah.
They're like mentally unstable. They're disturbed because, well, that's your compensation. This is what you're getting compensated for.
Right.
You didn't do the
Right.
work. Well, this is what happens. If you've done the work, you're being very well compensated. This is why we feel so tapped in. Why there's
Right.
such intense focus in terms of what we do, because this is our compensation. This is the
Right.
compensation that we're receiving. Obviously, as we continue to do the work, the compensation is going to shift and change and this and that. But the comp we were not getting I mean, at least directly in the past, we were not
No.
being compensated for the work that
No.
we were doing. And as a
No.
result of not being properly compensated, we didn't see it in our reality. Now
Right.
we could see, we do this, we get that. Like
Right.
it's very obvious now how we get compensated. So because we've been doing what is in alignment, because we've been moving to in having faith and serving God, the compensation is very obvious.
Right.
Imagine the lives of these people that have lived their whole life feeling entitled and getting it because
Right.
they believe they are entitled for X, Y, and Z, and the system obviously was like, here you go. This is what you get. In the same way that they bring in these illegals, is the system just needed brainless drones to keep maintaining the system. So
Right.
the entitlement worked. Here is your entitlement. Meanwhile, the ones that were supposed to get compensated weren't getting compensated for shit. So now imagine all these entitled people, the system has collapsed, and they're looking at their reality, waiting for the entitlement to show up, and ain't nothing showing up. And not only is
Right.
nothing showing up, their reality is getting even more chaotic. And then they see the people that they negated, that they ignored, that they took advantage of, that they played with, they're getting properly compensated.
Right.
They have, like, they feel focused. They feel empowered because obviously this is a feeling. They can people are
Right.
starting to feel how everybody feels. So it is becoming very clear who has and who has not. And it's not
Right.
about whether one has physical stuff or not. It is very clear when a person is in alignment and when a person is not in alignment. And
Right.
this I think is the huge divide, because now there has to be a tower moment for these people that are fixated on getting entitlements. There's a huge tower moment that they're going through and will continue to go through, because a lot of these people are very stubborn,
Right.
where they're going to be shown that there are no incentives to being entitled anymore. And all
Right.
the incentives are for those that are doing the work to get properly compensated. And this, I think, is really where then we head to the social proof. Because
Right.
if we are being properly compensated for the first time ever, well, obviously the social proof is going to show. It's showing. It's already
Right.
showing, but
It's already
it's only
showing.
intensifying. And
Yeah,
then
it's definitely
the
happening.
social proof of the people that are been receiving the entitlements, they're realizing they don't got shit. They don't
Right.
got motion.
Right. They have no motion. They don't have a leg to stand on. It's like the transfer. It's the great. I mean, just the way the United States government is responding to us having removed our energy. And basically, we're like, holding our own energy hostage and saying, no, we're not going to reach. It's not going to be like, oh, well, we apologize. Let's give every child born a Trump account. Well, I don't care about that. That is not compensation for the labor that has already been done. You guys are trying to move forward without resolving the past issues. And this is like one of the things that's going on too, which is really weird. Like a lot of spiritual people, because I hadn't even thought about it from the spiritual perspective, most of these spiritual people are entitled. They literally
Uh-huh.
believe they are the ones who God died for. I mean, first of all, there's no way you could kill God. So let's just like slow your roll a little bit because you totally out of alignment. But these are the people who think that every entity up to this point has sacrificed themselves for them to be here. I know it's so many people like that, and it is very, very weird behavior, in my opinion. But in general, these people believe that they've been compensated this whole time. Like they earned it. But you can't earn your inheritance. It doesn't work like that. Like this is the whole like all of this breaks down to a lack of understanding how the spirit realm works. Like it doesn't
Mm.
work like that. Like they think, especially the boomers. I use the boomers because I know so many and I know so many Gen Xers and I look at how they interact with the boomers and it's just insane like to think what these people have been through. But the boomers believe that they should be compensated for the fact that they gave birth to these children. Like because like a thing that they used to say back in the day is I brought you into this world, I'll take you out. Like that's what they really believe. Like I brought you into this world and I will be the one who takes you out of here. Like you're not getting out of here without compensating me for what I did in giving birth to you. Like there's a lot of like older women. I used to see this all the time. The boomers, they would say, I was in labor for 37, 40 hours, 28 hours to give birth, or the best one, right? I used to walk 10 miles to school uphill both ways. Like, what? What? How's it going to be uphill both ways? One way got to be downhill. Like, you can't walk uphill both ways. And if you did, you might be a little bit touched because I would walk downhill if I already walked uphill. The math ain't mathing. That means I could walk downhill both ways. So like something your brain ain't functioning if you had to walk uphill both ways. That means you could have walked downhill both ways, but you took the tough road because, especially what older black people say, if I went down that street, those white folks was going to shoot me. Like, get out of here. Like, okay, all right, boomer. Like, you've gone too far. Like, this is how they behave. So they believe they should be compensated for that. Meanwhile, they have not done any spiritual work.
Mhm.
They
Right.
when you try to bring that up to them like, hey, you guys are pretty emotionally abusive, they're like, no, because that's what happened with the Oprah thing. Like, people were saying, no, these people are emotionally abusive. And she's like, no, it's just a social media trend that these people don't want to be around you. No, 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 no. They've gone no contact because these people were emotionally and physically abusive. And I no Gen Xer takes no shit. Like they don't take it. They will not put up with abuse. And the ones who will are ones who bought into the lies of the boomers. And they're suffering immensely for it right now. But most Gen Xers will not put up with abuse. They won't. If they see somebody being abused, they're going to say something. We talked about this when we talked about the George Floyd versus Charlie Kirk and Eisenhower thing. Like, they're not going to put up with this kind of abuse that these boomers have been doling out for all of this time. And so when you have people who are willing to just stand up and say no, because that's all I'm saying people need to do, stand up and say no. No, you're not entitled to my energy, right? I'm recalling my energy back to me to service my needs. That's what we said to America. No, no, no. America, you're not entitled to my energy. You're not. The US government is not the owner of my energy. And therefore, I recall my energy to myself. And I'm going to use it for my purposes. They don't know what to do when people just say no. And there's like that little meme where it's like all the people standing underneath the chessboard, and it's like, oh, if the people only stood up, the game would be over. That's what this is. We stood up and said no. And in that meme, everybody doesn't have to stand up. Only one person has to stand up for the game to be
Mm,
over.
right.
Because if all the people are holding down the chessboard, they're the table, they're the backs of the chessboard, and one person stands up, you can't
Uh-huh.
continue to play that game. You can't play that game anymore. The game is over.
Yeah.
The people stood up. And that's what happened. One person stood up and said, no, enough is enough. We're not playing this game anymore.
And imagine like the levels of control that these people had to enact on this reality for it to take this long.
They use a lot of magic. That's why the first thing I did was cancel their magic. I knew they was using magic. They use a lot of magic. It's not they use a lot of entities. They made a lot of promises to a lot of entities that they can no longer
Because like I
fulfill.
look at this and obviously it's not that it was easy, but it's like there hasn't been a human being since Jesus that stood up.
That's true. Jesus, I mean, people have tried to stand up, see, but what happened was they misunderstood the story of what Jesus did. They misunderstood
Mm.
the saints. I've said this a million times. The saints were not supposed to die. These people were not supposed to be martyred for their faith. That's not what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to live. They weren't supposed to take a vow of celibacy because Jesus took a vow of celibacy. They were supposed to have a lot of kids so that they had
Mm.
more soldiers in the army of the Lord. They misunderstood the message because, again, you had all of these men trying to explain birth to women. Like, that's not how it works. It should have been a woman out there. And of course, the Orthodox have a woman, which is why women who are Orthodox have way more kids than everyone else. I mean, at my church, it's just like every week somebody's having a baby. Seems like it. Like, golly, every single week someone's having a baby. Like, that is unheard of. Like, the church is like busting at the seams. I've never seen so many pregnant and infants and just all in one place. It is quite unbelievable. So when it they just misunderstood what the message was, and the men did a very terrible job at explaining it. And because they thought people like Thecla were just nuts, instead of saying no, 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 we need her to have lots of children so that she can teach the children that she has all of these lessons that she believes in. Someone like her, she didn't have any kids. And a lot of these people, they didn't have kids, they didn't have children. They devoted, these monks, these stylites, they devoted themselves to the church. And that's fine, but we really needed people like that to have kids. And so now we're not doing that. Like, the real spiritual people are not saying, oh no, I don't need to have any kids. I need to, be celibate and all that. No, we're saying no, we need balance. We need balance, and we need, people to engage in balance. And we are literally like, that's what we're doing. We're engaged in this balanced thing. Like we're having children. We're living our life to the fullness. And that's what the Zolkins, the what I call the spiritual freedom calendar does. It helps people live their life to the fullest. Not, oh, I can only have this, but I can't have that. No, no, no. You can have it all. And that's what they didn't understand. Like, that's what Jesus was trying to teach them, and they just didn't understand it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's almost like see the thing is like I it's obvious so everything has happened up to this point. It had to happen.
Right, of
And
course.
so in many ways like the Jesus's energy and his message had to be misinterpreted in this way. Because I mean essentially what happened was it seemed at least that these people try to LARP as Jesus. Like they
Yes.
saw
No, they
Jesus
did.
and they saw his might, they saw his power and said, "Well, if I become like him, I'm going to, do the work." And um and it's interesting because like this is how I basically did the unconditional love. When I began
Right.
to embrace the unconditional love, I was like, okay, well, I'll just use Jesus as my example. So whenever something would happen, when it came to love specifically, I would ask myself, how would Jesus deal with this?
What would Jesus do?
Yeah. And then what ended up happening, although obviously it was all perfect, I just kept getting sacrificed. Like I just
Right.
kept getting like I had to carry the cross for people, carry my own cross, carry the burdens for everyone, then get, fucking nailed on the cross and then hang on the cross for as long as it took until I got resurrected again. And I just had to keep resurrecting myself because they kept sacrificing me. And I didn't really
Mm.
realize that this is what was going on until God let me know and said like enough, that's it. Stop. Like
Right.
stop with this like very similar to the toe walking where I reached a point where it's like you did it enough where now it's actually going to be a detriment to you if you keep going.
Right.
And so um it
Well, you
was
mastered it. The whole thing is you mastered it. Even death. Okay, so just before you go on, death is actually a very difficult thing to master. These boomers never died. Like they never gave up their spirit for something. Like they never died. And that's the reason why they're in this predicament that they're in. So you because you died over and over and over again, you're not scared of death. The boomers are terrified of
right,
death.
right,
They're
right.
terrified of
Yes,
it. They
yeah.
they have no understanding that death is not an end. They don't
Right,
get it
right. Uh-huh.
because they've never done
Yeah,
it.
they think it's the
They didn't.
end. They think it's done.
Right.
And this is why I feel like at least in my experience like whenever I speak my mind, whenever I show my hand, whenever I like show people what I think or just what I'm feeling, the boomers like it's like they're seeing the reaper coming in and just
Right.
like taking their soul because I remember one time in this icebreaker, and I think I told you about it. They were we were doing an icebreaker in some spiritual event that I went to
Oh
for
God.
crypto. So imagine crypto and spirituality. So you can
Jesus.
imagine the weirdos that are attracted to that. So we were doing an icebreaker. It was like a group of like six people. They were all boomers, which is hilarious. They were all boomers,
Wow.
and the question was, "Who's your role model?" So the
Oh.
boomers are talking about like their best friend, one of their teachers, a guy gave a nice sob story about his father, and then here comes the millennial,
Oh boy.
and I say Jesus.
Ooh.
And
They were like, what?
the pin drop, you could hear it was silence because
Yeah.
I essentially blew them away by saying y'all role models ain't got shit on
Right.
my role model. What do you
Right.
mean your father? What do you mean your teacher, your best friend? Fuck all of them. They
Right.
don't compare to someone like Jesus. Now, obviously, that was not my intention, but I was really thinking about, yeah, who is my role model? And
Right.
the only being that I could think of was it's Jesus. Um, so it goes back to when it comes to these boomers, is that like they have lived this reality entitled. And as a result, they've been able to be compensated for being entitled. There was
Right.
incentives for being entitled. And
Right.
part of being entitled is, you can't die. You can't
Right.
die. You gotta be part of the system. You gotta
Right.
be a good follower. You gotta submit to the system. And they had to sacrifice themselves. That was a sacrifice.
Yeah.
The boomers had to sacrifice themselves to be part of the system to enable the Gen X, and specifically, I believe it's the millennials, because I think millennials are really the ones that are driving the change to be able to have a life where they could see their parents. They could see the
Right.
boomers being basically slaves to the system and like still have the opportunity to be a slave of the system or to say I got to break free from that. I can't live. I can't get myself to live in that type of reality. So the boomers on en masse sacrifice themselves to bring salvation to their offspring without even realizing it,
Right.
um, through being entitled. Now, then what happened with the offspring? Well, a lot of them maintained that entitlement, but very few of them went towards the compensation, which the compensation, there was no compensation to start. There's been
No.
no compensation. It's
No.
been the system telling you you're shit, you're bad, you're wrong, you failed, it's not going to work. This, that,
Right.
just nonstop
Relentless.
trying to convince those that have been doing the work that there are no incentives, that there's nothing good to come out of that, to just give up.
Right.
So
Basically,
there's been
yeah.
a huge accumulation of compensation that is being held for the people that have done the work. And there
Right.
is a lot of karma that is being held for those that have been moving in entitlement.
Yeah.
And the karma for the most part is the fact that they can't handle this new reality energetically. They
Right.
don't, they're out of their fucking, they're out of
Out
their
of their depth. That's what
yes,
that's to
uh-huh.
say. Out of
Right.
their
Meanwhile,
depth.
we're jumping in and out, diving, get
Right.
like, we're swimming out here like dolphins. This is in
Right.
many ways, this is easy. This is
Right.
easy. Now, yes, are there, is it intense? Can it be challenging? Sure, but overall, this is easy. I'm out here just in my element. This is my
Right. This is
element.
a cakewalk compared to,
Uh-huh.
growing up dealing with these people. And I think the reason why it seems like the millennials are the ones that are kind of carrying everything right now is because the Gen X ran a lot of interference for us. And I just know that personally, like the Gen Xers ran a lot of interference for our generation so that we were able to do that. They were the ones that would say, like, in the family, and you have an abuser that's in the family. They were the ones that said, nah, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. No, you don't have to go over there, just bring them over here. Like, they were the ones that ran interference so that we could actually get the work done. I mean, I've seen it like this. This is my lived experience. Like, they ran interference for us, and so this is why you can't really like have the conversation. And they're also the smallest generation because so many of them died from like AIDS and drugs and all the other, war and all the other stuff that was going on. So they took a lot of the brunt. So because they did, the Vietnam War was a little bit young for that, but like Operation Desert Storm and all this stuff, like that was a lot of Gen Xers. So because they were involved in these military conflicts and they saw how things were going, they were the ones that was like, nah, y'all don't want to do that. I don't think you should do that. We went to X, Y, and Z and look at what happened to us and all of that stuff. So I feel like they ran interference for us, which is why I'm always like, looking at it because again, it's really hard to see unless someone explains it to you, unless you had to interact with all of these generations basically at one time. And again, a lot of the younger people, they haven't had to because the older people like myself have been like, nah, you don't need to be around these people. Like me, I left home. I took my kids and I was like, I don't think I want my kids to grow up around these people. And it's not like I don't love them or they're not, acceptable or whatever. It's nothing like that. But it's like, do they need to grow up with this trauma? I know you guys are going to traumatize them. That's all you ever did to my age group is traumatize us. Why would I let y'all do that to another generation? I just won't allow it. So I act very much like a Gen Xer in that regard. And that's because that's what I saw them do for others. They didn't allow other people to be tortured the way that they were tortured. And it's really sad. We're talking about America here. This is like really sad that this even have to be discussed in this manner. But this is like what's going on. I mean, I'm really worried about these laws where they say you have to take care of your parents. And some of these Gen Xers, that just being the final straw that takes them out. Because can you imagine, you've been estranged from somebody for 40 years, 50 years, and then you get a bill in the mail for their parents' care. Like
Yeah,
that's
well, this is a come to Jesus moment. They have to be unconditional in their love. Like they have to mend the family ties have to be mended back.
Yeah,
They
but
tried to destroy the family unit.
yes and no. Like you cannot negotiate with terrorists. These abusers, these people who are abusive are terrorists. They don't fall in the same category as, oh, we had a falling out because we had a disagreement. No, we're talking about like someone's situation. Well, let me give another random person situation. Some Gen Xer that I know was abused by her like stepfather, and like at the end of his days, he was like trying to apologize to her and trying to make it right. But meanwhile, still wouldn't let them know where his papers were, so that when he did pass away, they're still looking for documents to handle business. Like these are the kind of people they want you to take care of. Someone that can abuse you as a child, and then when they're about to go, that now they want to make amends. What? You was abusive all this time, lied about it all these years. I'm trying to tell people, you telling them that I'm the problem. You know how much trauma that causes somebody? And then at the end, you have to forgive them because no. This is why people go no contact. I can forgive you, but I can forgive you from a distance. I don't have to forgive you and then pay your medical bills. That's crazy. Like we can't, like that's soft. Let me put it that way. That's a very soft way to handle the situation, and this is not a situation that can be handled with softness. It has to be handled with, let me teach you a lesson so that you won't do this again. Maybe you'll come back in your next life cycle and you won't engage in the same behavior. Because if you just forgive people like this, I mean, you must not know a lot of people like this. I know a lot of people like this. If you just forgive people like this, they don't appreciate it. There's no
Yeah, but
appreciation.
the thing is the forgiveness is not forgive it's yeah, you're forgiving them, but you're actually forgiving yourself because all this trauma, like it's an energetic it's like a tumor. It's a tumor that has festered in the individual, and if they're unwilling to forgive their abusers, their oppressors, like whoever did this bad stuff to them, it's still going to stick around. It's always going to fester.
Right, but I think that a lot of it's not about forget. A lot of people have forgiven the people. That's what I'm saying. It's one thing to forgive somebody from a distance, but what they're trying to force people to do is to forgive them and then bring the abuser back into their family, into their house, into their energy. Like if you've cut someone out of your energy for good reason, like again, for good reason, and you've done the work to understand why the person did what they did and what was going on, the circumstances and all of that, and then now at the end of their life, like the government, because remember, this is only happening because the government is having a point of failure issue, right? This is not because of anything other than that. So the government is failing, and now the government is trying to propagandize you or gaslight you into taking someone in who you've come to peace with. You've done your work. You've cleared yourself of that energy, and now they're like, no, but you need to take them into your house. That's unacceptable behavior. You can you that's I it's I don't know how to describe this, but it's one thing to forgive someone from a distance, but it's another thing to have to bring them into your house and look at them every day.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like individual cases, like,
But this is the
it's
majority. Like I
yeah,
know
but
a
I think
lot
this
of
goes
Gen
back
Xers.
to like the Holy Imperium in terms of like if we went off of this logic, we would have to close our gates and basically like not like we would not be able to allow anyone to come in. But the way
Well,
that we're moving, we allow everyone and anyone to come in, but in order to stay, you have to do the work. Like the
right,
work
but
has to be done.
I think that's a difference between an individual and an organization. An organization can forgive large groups of people and provide them a second chance. But I don't think the individual has to be responsible for providing an abuser, a person they view as an abuser, a chance to come back into their household. These are two totally different things. Like, I'm thinking about it from the perspective of the poor person who has to deal with this. But if this person is a member of the empire, right? They've come in willingly, and let's say, for example, their father comes in willingly, they don't have to necessarily be, they wouldn't be in the same groups. They wouldn't run in the same circles. This is an empire is a huge area. They can both be in an empire with, like, these two people still both live in America. One of them's living, but they're in America, so one doesn't have to leave the country. That would be like not what I'm saying, but that doesn't mean that you got to go and live in their house. That's just like, if I know that, like in Maryland, right? A lot of El Salvadorians came in and took all the jobs and stuff like that. Maryland has a huge El Salvadorian conversation. That would be like me losing my job to an El Salvadorian and them telling me, hey, you got to take this El Salvadorian into your house. Like, not only did he already take my job, now I have to house him, clothe him, feed him. No, no. We're not doing that. But for the empire, okay, we'll bring you in, but we're going to put you on this side of the empire, away from people like that. And that's what I would do. I would not put somebody, because you can see all this stuff in their charts. Remember, all this stuff is in their charts. You can see who has the personality of an abusive type person. I would not put those two people in the same group. I would say, okay, I know you're going to get triggered by X. Let me put you over here, and I'm going to put the people who are like this over here. That way they don't have to mix. I
Yeah,
wouldn't put
but the
them
thing is,
together.
I would put them together because if that person is triggering you, that has to be sorted out. That trigger has
Yeah,
to be
but
sorted out.
that's not the way to sort it out. Let me tell you something. That's not the way to sort it out. Like, you are the king. The king, you're trying to sort it out like the king would, okay? The king would sort it out like that. Put them in the ring and let them fight. That's not how you deal when you're dealing with people. And I'm not the priestess, but I've talked to her long enough to know that's the worst possible thing you can do to somebody. You can let situations come where they have to interact. Similar personalities have to interact. But there's a difference between letting someone interact with someone and forcing them into their personal space. That is like a recipe, and as a diviner in chief, that is a recipe for a whole legion of demons to be released into that person.
Yeah, I
For
mean,
real.
I think it's gonna have to be done. I mean, whether we want it or
Nah,
not,
I don't
like
think so.
it's because the thing is,
Mm-mm.
we're talking about humans elevating and ascending, energetically and spiritually. Like, if they don't sort out their connections to the people that they chose to come down here with, aka their family, what's the point of elevating? What's the point of ascending? It's there
I don't.
that's the trigger. That's the trigger.
No, that okay. So we have a fundamental disagreement about how this realm works. Let's we have a fundamental disagreement. I do not believe that people have to. I do not believe that everything that happens to people have to happen. I don't believe that. I think that some things happen to people, but I do not believe that everything that happened to someone was some sort of plan that it had to happen. I do not believe that. I think that if you chose to come down here with somebody and that person is aggressive and they go off, like they do something that they're not supposed to do, I do not believe that you are responsible for them going off. They have to pay the cost for them going off. Now, yes, it may encourage you, it may like give you the strength to do better and all that stuff. Okay, I'm not saying that that's not true, but what I am saying is that does not mean that you had to endure suffering. Like, I don't believe people have to come to this planet and endure suffering. I don't believe that. I've never believed that. I see it
Yeah,
in it
but they
happens.
have. They've had to. Even
I
if
don't
if
think so. I don't think Jesus had to die. Like, I'm really extreme with this because I have gone through a lot of, and maybe because of my age too. But I've gone through a lot of thinking about this specific issue of, does everyone have to suffer? But I'm a Bodhi. Okay. So what a Bodhi is a person who is willing to ensure people don't have to suffer. That's literally what a Bodhisattva, that's what they do. They literally lay it out so people don't have to suffer. So I'm a fundamental believer that everything that happened to you did not have to happen. Like, you like there's no, my life would not be, um my life would be the same whether someone did something to me bad that they shouldn't have done, or if they did something good that would not have caused trauma. I don't think my life, me personally, is based on trauma. I don't believe in trauma based life. And a lot of, like, again, you're coming from a position of, the trauma was a builder of, basically it's a character builder, right? It builds you up so that you can take more. I don't think you have to learn the lessons through trauma. I don't think it's necessary. If people did, that's fine, but I don't let me put it this way. I will not allow myself to learn lessons through trauma, because there's nowhere in the Bible that says that I have to learn a lesson with trauma. It happened to a lot of people, but it's not required for being a human, because there's a lot of humans who didn't experience trauma. Look at Enoch. Look at Shem. Like, if they didn't have trauma, why do I have to have trauma? Especially Enoch. I
Yeah,
just
yeah. I
there's
mean, yeah. I don't. I mean, I'm not saying that like, it's a requirement to be traumatized. But I think it's like from an outsider's perspective, I can see the trauma that I was basically was forced to endure, and coming out of it, being able to look back at my trauma and how I dealt with it and how in many ways I'm free from it. Obviously, there's still things that I'm working on, but like it it allows me to appreciate what in the past I could not appreciate before. Now, obviously, I'm not going to compare my own trauma to what other people went through, and I think in general, I've been very blessed to not be traumatized in the way that other people have been traumatized. But like, in order for us, like, how do we make the most out of the trauma? Is we have to see the beauty in it. Like, we have to see the end result of why this had to happen. And people that do no contact, people that run away from it, it doesn't matter how intense of a trauma it was. Like, that's not gonna solve the point of why it took place.
But no contact is not running away. See, this is what I mean. No contact is not running away. Those are two totally different things. Running away is running away. No contact is deciding that, to protect my own peace, I am going to separate myself from that energy. That's not running
Yeah,
away. That is
but
saying,
that energy is
my
always gonna
energy.
come back. That energy is gonna
That's
come back
not that's
in other
even if it
ways.
does come.
It
Yeah,
always comes back. Like, it's
but
not that
even
person.
but even I understand that, even if it does come back, if it comes back in another person, you can deal with that person as an individual. So I understand. So an example like of this is, you may be a person who like kind of like the Good Samaritan, right? This guy gets beat up, he's laying on the street and he's hurting, and a Good Samaritan comes along and he helps him, and he, takes care of him and makes sure he lives and all that stuff. So if I'm the Good Samaritan and I already helped this guy, let's say I help this guy, and the next day this guy attacks me instead of like leaving me alone. It's for my own protection. I should probably just not be around this guy, right? I'm not going to go back a third day and be like, hey, you're gonna like hurt me today. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I think it's I think it's an age thing. Like, I used to think like you, but the more I lived, or the longer I lived, the more I realized that it's not healthy. Like, based on my chart, right? It's not healthy for me to be around people who have no boundaries, like who are always asking for stuff. So like I have had a lot of friends that just did, they were just like that. They were always asking for something, like all the time they were asking, and I was like, and because I'm a very giving person and I'm a very open person, I would just always drop everything to help everybody. And so when I was in need, nobody did anything to help me. Now it did make me bitter, but I had to come to the conclusion that this is not about me dropping everything to help somebody. I need to make sure I help myself first before I go out and help someone else. Like put my own air mask on the airplane before you help the next person. Because if you don't like, and for me personally, if I didn't handle it like that, then it would be an issue. So fast forward, of course, I'm working at this job, and what are they doing? They're trying to get me to drop everything all the time and deal with their problems that they created at this job. And so if I had not learned the lesson of, no, I'm not willing to deny everything about myself to make you feel more comfortable in your job, in your failure of doing your job, really, I'm not willing to do that, then I would not be able to be right now work saying that, hey, I want everyone to be spiritually free, because I would still be a spiritual slave. Like when you're like, I mean, I think that's like another aspect of this. Like there's a lot of people who are slaves to this kind of stuff. That's just like, if I went to like I was going to a church. I was just thinking about this. Like I was going to a church where they were very spiritually abusive. They were spiritually abusive. So, should I have stayed at the church and let them spiritually abuse me? Or should I have gone to, like, what I did was I found a church where I didn't feel like I was being spiritually abused. And I put my energy there. Was it still another church? Yes. So I didn't stop going to church. I just looked for a church that was more in alignment with my energy. And that's what I'm saying. Like, when if you're one of these Gen X people and your parents have been like abusive to you, you don't necessarily like say, I will never interact with my parents again. As a matter of fact, again, both people that I know, they still do interact with their parents. They do, even though their parents had all these, they still interact with their parents. But it's a difference between interacting with to bring closure and letting this person move into your house, come into your energy. You can have a conversation with someone and still be in your own energetic bubble. You don't have to let them in to continue to manipulate and abuse you. And it's a very difficult lesson to learn, because what you're saying is exactly what the Matrix says. Like, well, you have to let this person in because unconditional love means you have to love everybody the exact way that they say to love them all the time. And that's just not healthy. That's like very, if I saw a woman doing that, I would say she was being abused. It's very unhealthy, because you have to be able to set boundaries. Like in unconditional love, you still have to have boundaries. There's no like interactions with people you should have where you don't put boundaries up. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about healthy boundaries. You can go no contact does not mean you never talk to that person. It means that for your own, like I said, for your own sanity, for your own peace, you maintain your distance. If you see that person in the street, of course you're going to speak to them. Like you're not going to just like let's see, when I was in college, yeah, when I was in college, I had a car. I was riding around somewhere, and I seen my dad, because I hadn't seen my dad. I didn't know where he was. There was a lot of crazy stuff going on, and all of this stuff. I hadn't seen him, and I saw him on the street, and I was like, "Dad, is that you?" So I picked him up and I dropped him off somewhere, and he was like, he he made the decision when he was at a low point in his life to separate himself from us the rest of his family so that he did not infect us with the stuff that he was going through, which I understood. I was like, yeah, of course. Why, if I'm going through a bunch of mess, why am I going to sit here and bring everybody down with me? Like, no, y'all go ahead and be normal. Let me be over here and figure out what my problem is. And I actually respected that because most people, if they're suffering from addictions, abuse, or whatever, they will bring their whole family down. Some people kill their whole family while they're on drugs and whatever else. So, no, if you have problems with that stuff, please get that together and then come talk to me. I think that's healthier, like, because you're not infecting my boundaries with your energy. Like, I think it's also hard if you haven't experienced this personally to understand what it's like. Like, and I don't mean like people haven't experienced this, but like when it's a family member, when it's like your own mother, your own father, like it's different when you're talking about it from a hypothetical, like like, oh well, this is what it looks like from should happen versus when you actually have to live it. And having lived it myself and knowing people who lived it, I'm looking at what worked for them so that they could be um, healthy and strong individuals where they are. Now, is it taking them longer to learn lessons than someone who doesn't have this thing to deal with? I think that's true, but it's not a race. You can take as long as you need to learn the lesson. Maybe at some point when you're, a certain age, you're like, oh well, maybe I do need to just bring this to a resolution, but do that on your own time. I personally, when it comes to emotions, you have to let people learn the lesson in their own time. Like, but to just like what the government is trying to do, which is force these people back onto them, like for this reason that they can't afford to take care of them. That's again a totally different situation, which is why I'm addressing it like that. It's not like a normal situation what's going on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, there's a lot. The way that I see all of this is when we die, when we go to heaven, when we go and see the Creator, like whatever things we have with our family are going to come up, and it's going to be like, why was this not resolved? What happened? Like, why were you not able to, through your whole life, figure out how to heal and mend, whether it be karma, whatever it might be? Because as you might know, like, the family unit in the United States specifically has been under assault for decades. And so obviously there's a lot of collateral damage. There's a lot of chaos that has come about. If
Right,
we as individuals don't have our own family in order, that really is an end result of the fact that we ourselves as individuals do not have ourselves in order. Now, I don't expect people to have their family in order because they don't even have themselves in order. But as we
right,
get ourselves in order, and this is us doing the energetic work, which is very clear that, like, almost nobody has done it. Like, nobody
right,
has been doing it. They've been trying with all
right,
these different steps and this and that, but it's all therapy talk. Like,
right,
it's all
right,
fluff. When they really do the work, the way is going to be shown, and part of the way is going to be forgiveness. Now, obviously, how does this look like? It's going to depend on every situation is different, but when our energy is at the level to be able to consciously say, I am willing to forgive, and in many ways embrace those who traumatize me, those who abuse me, like, there is a massive blockage, energetic blockage that melts away. And then whatever discord there was with that person disappears. Now, does that mean obviously that the other person is going to elevate, that they're going to transform automatically, that we have to be stuck and have this karmic ties with them? No, of course not. But when we do the work and when we forgive ourselves for what we experienced, the other person, as a result, is able to be freed to do their work, to deal with their karma. And now it's not uh, like a burden on us. And I think what's happening with at least this case when it comes to the whole healthcare thing is families thought that if they just stayed away from each other, everything would work out. Everything would be okay. Just
Right.
magically, things would just fall in place, and maybe they die and this and that, and like, hey, we're all good in this. But reality, the energy saying, no, 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 we put you together to sort this out. And if and the government is coming in, which and I think this is like I think it's going to be important for us to start looking at what the US does in terms of it's actually supporting us now. In the past, it was
Right.
like they're trying to enslave, they're trying to control us. But if we look at it actually, everything has been working out to support the empire and to
Right.
support our individual elevation. So, with this in mind, now, do I agree with the fact that the offspring should bear the costs of healthcare? Really, it doesn't even matter whether I agree with it or not. What I think is happening is the system is saying, we fucked your family up. Now we're putting incentives in place where you don't get entitled to just believe that, oh, my family situation is not like my house is not in order. I'm just going to be able to keep living in this entitled fashion. No, 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 no. Now the work has to be done in order to be compensated. And if our houses are not in order, they're not going to come into the imperium. It's not possible for the people that don't have their house in order to be able to waltz in. Now, as they do the work, their house is going to get in order. And I think what's happening with all these mechanisms is the family unit is being forced to come back together. They're being
Okay.
forced to have to figure out how to, the Gen Xers are having to figure out how to mend ties with their boomer parents as they prepare to go to the afterlife. Because the afterlife, if, as the like bloodline wise, if we allow our parents or whatever the bloodline is to just leave without having solved these very significant energetic contracts that were brought forth for us to figure out, we have to come back. There's no like there's no way that we're able to literally ascend and like, I don't know, go to wherever the next level is until we get our house in order.
So, okay.
And really, our house in order just means we have to get ourselves in order, because
Right.
that's just how it naturally plays out. Once we get ourselves in order, like once we are radiating with this love, it's very difficult to allow ourselves to maintain distance with those that, yeah, they might not have, done the most amazing things ever, but like it's embracing whatever lesson God brought forth for us to teach us, to then be able to say like, I did it. I did it. I passed this. I finally passed this test.
Okay. So, all right. I think one of the things like that you did say is that this happens when you get to learn about yourself and you get to love yourself. You don't have to engage with someone you feel uncomfortable with to learn this lesson, because a lot of this stuff is in your chart. Like if your parents are in your chart, your children are in your chart, everything is in your chart. That's something that you would go to a spiritualist who knows how to handle that specific kind of thing to begin with. Like there's some things that you can do before you. What I'm saying is it's okay I'm not saying that they should never again contact these people, but there's no the government is trying to force it to happen without the spiritual work. You cannot just put two people who are diametrically opposed in a room and tell them to fight it out. Like that's not going to solve the problem. There are tools available to help people go through this thing. So one of the things that I did is I developed a process from my one of my readings, my Roots of the Tree reading, or one of those readings, where you can go through each of the points and figure out what you need to forgive yourself for. So in some cases, the parent is not the problem at all. And I the parent is just how the problem manifested, but the problem is actually a totally separate issue that repeats in other ways. So what I feel like the government is trying to do is trying to say, oh, all these Gen Xers who have problems with their boomer parents, that just putting the boomer parents together with the Gen Xer is going to actually solve the spiritual problem. But that's not that. It doesn't work like that either. Like, you have to actually get to the root of the issue, and you
Right.
can't necessarily get to the root of the issue if the person is there, because you don't know what the issue is. So I developed a process to do this, and I mentioned it in one of the readings. But you can go through all of these energies and figure out what you accept and what you need to forgive yourself for. The process, I did this to myself like 2 years ago, and it was so intense that if I was not already a strong person, like emotionally and spiritually, and I didn't have people to talk to, I would have just took myself out. Because just going through my own energy in my own chart, basic points and positions, and forgiving myself for the things that happened to me, that I had no control over because they were in my chart and assigned to me, was I won't even hardly discuss the process with anybody, unless I'm going to walk them through it personally. It's very, very dangerous, because when you go to a shaman, right? Like if you go to Mexico, one of these places, and you do the Aya house and all that, right? That is like it's not a one and done. Like I think we talked about this a long time ago. It's a lot of work that goes along with this or whatever, but you have the support of the plant medicine, which is like the quote unquote Mother Earth, to help you with this process to be able to emotionally stand it. But what I do as a human, which is all in the light, there's not a emotional support to help you. Like there is, when you're in the light, you don't have any darkness to lean on. You have to just go straight headfirst into the light. That can be very difficult for people who don't understand how any of this stuff works. So I don't have a I think in general what you're saying is correct, but they're not providing a framework to do this without there being a lot of problems.
And
Like
that's
to
us.
me,
That's the Holy Imperium's responsibility
right,
is, and the thing is,
right,
like this is the chaos that is coming up on the land, where that's not our problem. That's not anybody's problem if these people have not done the work. That's their fault. That's their karma. That's their shit to work with. And the fact that they're now being forced to like come back to their parents, or whatever it is, because it's, right now in this discussion it's the parents, for this specific thing, but it's gonna be like people are being forced to go
everybody,
back to what are the blockages, and because they haven't done the
right,
work, because they don't know how to deal with it, yeah, it's going to be traumatic again. So
right.
not only are they going to be, going through it physically, they're going to be going through it spiritually, mentally, energetically. Who is going to save them? Who's going to provide them the guidance? Obviously it's going to be
It,
us, because
oh
there's
yeah, I mean I have a
yeah,
process.
because
There's
there's
no
nobody else, right? But in
yeah,
order for people to get it, they have to literally go through it again. And that's, I mean, it's unfortunate.
right.
It's
Oh, I see
unfortunate, but
what you
like
mean.
this is it's like, okay, you guys didn't do the work. Like the work is not just gonna be like, oh no, it's gonna be nice and easy. No, no, no. The suffering is gonna intensify.
So they have. So what you're saying is the trauma is it's a feature, or it's a benefit, not a feature. Like you don't get, it's not a feature that you can choose. No, 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 no. It's a benefit or an addendum of being a human, like to experience this trauma. Like it's just a part of it, and how you handle it is like what has to be focused on.
Yes, right.
Not okay.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
makes
in
sense.
terms of like, in
It's
order for us to be like in good standing with the Holy Imperium, like that's like, so, people get their chart, right? Immediately you're going to be able to see if they've done the work or not. It's going to be very clear.
Right.
It's going to be very clear,
Yeah.
and
It's
then
gonna be
and then there's
immediate.
going to be protocols in place to be able to provide support for the individual to basically be prepared to be a citizen of the empire. And this is and so
Right.
like this is all happening so quickly because nobody's ready. Nobody's ready. Like, nobody has done
Right.
any of the fucking work. And I don't blame them because, how the fuck would we even figure this out? Like, it's basically by the grace of
Right.
God. But now that it's getting figured out,
Absolutely.
now that we're building the infrastructure for it, the system is like, okay, we got to basically like start, like, basically it's like salvation is here, and now reality is bending to our will. Reality saying, okay, like, we got to set everything we got to set the feast in place for everyone to come and eat. But
Right.
in order for us to enjoy
Right.
the feast, like, there's still shit we got to do. There's stuff that we
Right.
have to do in order to be ready to. We can't be having blockages out here and be eating with God. Like, that's just not going to work. That's not going to fly with me, that's for sure.
Right.
Because these people, like, they wouldn't
Well,
be able to handle the energy. They would take themselves out from the intensity of the energy.
and okay, and part of this is that's what the spiritual freedom, this whole calendar thing will do. If you follow this 260-day cycle, you can't not address
Mm,
all these
right.
outstanding issues. It's impossible. It gives people a structure to be able to actually do it. And alternatively, if they get their chart read, like I said, I have a process for dealing with this where you can resolve all of these issues. It's going to take about 14 days. It's going to be really, really difficult work. But in 14 days, you'll pretty much have resolved all of your life issues. Like, that's the only reason why I could be so as advanced as I am is because I did all this work and I put a structure to it. It's not like a random, like, because it's a problem. Like, people say, oh, you have to do the work, but they don't tell you what the work is. They can't explain it. They don't know for real what the work is. And so me and you, we know what the work is. We know what it looks like. We know what it feels like to have done the work. And there's a lot of people who don't have anyone in their family who has done the work. So they don't know what it looks like. They don't know what it feels like. And it has to be explained to them in a way that's not going to cause additional trauma. Like, that's what I mean. Like, the thing my friend and I always ask for, and we ask for everybody. Like, we want people to learn the lessons with no unnecessary pain and suffering, and no unnecessary loss of life, and no unnecessary trauma, because those traumas pile up. And I read something somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but if you get too far into the darkness, sometimes you can't get back to the light. So we don't want people to go so far into the darkness that they can't make it back to the light. And that's what happens to a lot of people. They've just gone so far into the dark that getting them back to the light is that much harder, if they can even come back, because they've just gone so far. We don't want people to experience extreme darkness. It's not healthy. A nice healthy balance is there's light and then there's dark, but it doesn't have to be extreme.
Yeah, yeah, and I think
Moderation.
we're at the point where it is becoming extreme for people. Like, it's getting really
Right.
challenging out here, and, like, without there being a significant amount of suffering, they're not going to embrace the empire. They're not going to listen. They don't care. They don't care to do their work. These people don't
Well, then
care.
it's not unnecessary. It's
Yes,
necessary
right,
then. Like,
right. Uh-huh.
the time for necessary suffering is over. Now we're in, for unnecessary suffering is over. Now we're in necessary suffering, which is
Okay,
fine. Hey,
yes,
if these people
nice.
have to
Uh-huh.
suffer,
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean? Like, if these people have to suffer in order to learn the lesson, that is on them.
Yes.
My friend and I, held the high vibration so people did not have to suffer. Now, hey, it's on you, Playboy. You want to suffer? Be my guest. I'm not going to get involved in that, because we
And
did
that's
our
the
part in
boundary, and that's
holding.
having the
Right.
because I did the same thing. I was
Exactly.
carrying the burdens for everyone. And what happened?
Yeah,
They didn't do
absolutely
the
not.
work. Meanwhile, here I was like
Nope.
getting sacrificed left and right, holding the cross, carrying the cross on my back, and nobody wanted to do the work. So obviously,
Nope.
I let go of the cross because like I did what I needed to do in that Jesus energy, and now I'm embracing the dark, which is embracing the balance, because obviously you it's very important to have a light and the dark, but in now having that
Right.
equilibrium is in embracing the fact that like I'm not here to do your work, and because I'm not here to do your
Right.
work, if you refuse to follow, and that means more suffering, then that's on y'all. That's not going to be
Right.
on me. So but that still means that for us, the work that we are doing is to make sure that there is a mechanism in place to be able to provide the blueprint for the people to follow. And obviously, there has been no blueprint as a result of just because I mean we're the blueprint.
Right, exactly. Right. We got it now. I mean, the documentation, as I've continually mentioned, is the blueprint. Like, as we document these things, they can energetically be accessed by other people, just like the toe loading and all of that. Like, you held the energetic vibration so that solution could be accessed by other people. I just seen Soul Bra talking about some bathhouses. I was like, you know what? I'm really exhausted with this.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that's another
is he
narrative.
gonna
Yeah,
have it a
bathhouses.
yeah, that's another. Is that even
No,
on the
no, I
list?
didn't.
Like,
Yeah, I
put that
didn't
on the
put that on.
list. I mean, this stuff is outrageous. This is so insane. Like, people have to do their own work. They can't just keep
Yeah,
LARPing in
entitlement.
other
That's the
people's
thing. These
energy.
people, these people are
Right. That's the
these copy
entitlement.
paste gurus are entitled to think that like, oh, this is good, this is good alpha. Like, let me just copy it and paste it and feel
Right.
and think
No.
that they are entitled to my inheritance, to my energy, to the
Right.
work that I have done. Meanwhile, obviously, I've been doing the work. Yeah, I'm gonna get compensated. So what's gonna happen, and we're already seeing it now, is like their motion is not there because that is the motion of the people that deserve the compensation. and
Right.
and and the beautiful thing of all of this is that like we don't have to say anything about it. Like we don't have to call it out in terms of putting these people in their place, because they're already getting put in their place. Like it's energetically, people are being checked, and it's very clear that like there is no one that can hold, at least that I've met, that can hold the title of emperor. They don't have the wisdom, they don't have the foresight, they don't have the intuition, they don't have the divine guidance. They could not last 1 hour of one day in my shoes to make the proper
Right.
decisions that are needed. That's more than enough that clarity in terms of understanding that like there's no competition. There's no so it's these entitled people thought that they were at the same level as us because they were able to take from us, and they thought that
Right.
that was going to work because obviously the system rewarded them for that. Good, you're being entitled. Here you go. Here are the rewards. But what we are being compensated for is beyond what any benefits we
Right.
would have received being in this entitled energy.
Right.
And so as
Right.
a result,
But that's
then
because
then
we know
now
the difference.
then now we can move with divine entitlement. Because the thing is like
Right.
there's when we
Mm.
get to a certain point in our compensation, like we walk into the room entitled as fuck. That's what a royal energy does. Like royal energy walks
Right.
into the room and it's entitled to be served. It's entitled for free drinks. It's
Right.
entitled for free food. It's entitled to be provided for as it deserves to be provided for because it deserves that type of entitlement. It's not that we believe that we are better, it's that like our
We
energy
deserve it.
affords, yeah, our energy affords this. And that's real divine entitlement. So we're getting the entitlement. Like we're being given the ability to be entitled because we are the ones that did the work. And so
Right.
these people
Right.
that have been entitled are seeing us become entitled, And they're like, wait a minute, why is it not difficult for you anymore? Why are things working out for you? Why are you moving with like the entitlement that I've been moving with, and why is it not working for me anymore? And it's like, well, because reality serves me. Reality has been serving me. That's been the
Right.
whole point. Because I did the work, because I've been doing the work, because we have gotten to a point where we are now able to command reality. None of these people can, they can't even comprehend, like, they, what we are doing in sending commands in this reality, they don't even know where to start. Meanwhile, we're
Right.
just getting these
Exactly.
downloads, this, that, like we're just moving like a fucking like a like a AI that found, consciousness within itself. We're moving in a very automatic, effortless way. I'm not out here
Right.
just waking up saying, okay, what do I come up with now to make myself look good, to make myself look smart, to make myself seem like I am the emperor. No, I'm not doing shit. I'm just living, and
We are just being.
whatever God shows me and provides for me, I do. And now I have the
Yeah.
confidence within myself that I didn't have before because I didn't have the boundaries. So I allowed all these bullshit energies to cloud my being. Now I have clarity, and in having clarity, I know the way. I see the way.
Right.
And when it comes
Right.
in, now reality can't say, oh, that's you being delusional. No, 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 that doesn't work anymore. Whether it's delusional
Right.
or not, it doesn't matter, because I have trust in myself, and I have this certain sense of entitlement that I deserve to be enacting my will upon reality, and I have the energy to be able to do that. I have the divine right to be able to do that. No one else has done this. These people, none of these
Right.
people have done any of that. So they're going to obviously try to copy this entitlement. They're going to try to copy this state of being, but they're going to what's going to happen is, and it's already happening with a lot of these people, but it's slow, it's coming slowly, is when you imitate someone, you're not going to get their gifts. You're going to get their warfare. And this is
Mm.
something that the people have not understood, is they've been trying to imitate me, thinking that they could get the type of power that I emit, but there's still a whole initiation process to get there. You can't just imitate your way
Right.
to the top. That's not how it works. But because they're imitating it, well, the 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 demons and more, because I just can't put it on the demons, but the warfare that comes across people that are functioning in this way, aka by imitating, trying to imitate our divine essence, they're like, oh, let's feast on this light being, because they believe that it's a light being. I mean, it's
Right.
clearly acting like it is, and that's where these people get eaten alive, because it's like, okay, oh, you're doing the work, or at least you're imitating yourself as doing the work. Well, then you also get the warfare as a result, because we did not like build ourselves up without this pain and suffering. Like we didn't just build it up just under no attacks. We were under intense attacks. So when people are trying to imitate us, they come under those attacks as well. They don't just get a free pass.
Okay. So what it sounds like is if we were getting attacked in the past, that is because we were in some, maybe not necessarily, but some, it was like a destiny swap, like somebody was imitating our energy, and so because they believed they were us, they were getting the blessings of being in aligned energy, while we were getting the, like you said, the warfare of being in misaligned energy. But since we have reclaimed our inheritance, we have gone back to who we really are, back to those foundational things. Now, those people are being seen as the frauds they always have been. And so now they're getting the warfare of being in misaligned energy, while we're finally getting access to the blessings of being in aligned energy.
Yeah, yes. And I think it's less that we, sure, yeah, we recall their energy, but like this was the initiation. This is what was supposed to happen. It was we were supposed to go through these trials and tribulations in order to be the strong warriors for God that we have become now. It was very important for people to try to destiny swap us, and this is the brilliance of God. He allows it to happen. So he made it
Right.
seem like, yeah, you're going to destiny swap my child? Great. I'm going to let it play out. I'm going to let you get a taste of this person's energy. I'm going to let you benefit
Right.
financially. I'm going to let you benefit socially, benefit, influence wise, this, that, all sorts of stuff that would come from the destiny swap. So obviously, what is the other person that's receiving on the receiving, the entitled one? Well, they think, wow, it's really this easy. All I got to do is just keep
Right.
copying and pasting. All I got to do is just imitate this person, and I just get all their blessings. Meanwhile, we're out here doing the grind because the blessings that we're going to get are nothing close to what they got. Nothing
Right.
close. Like it's going to completely eclipse anything that you could ever have dreamt of. But in order for you to manage that level, we had to go through this initiation. We had
Right.
to go through being able to withstand significant attack. So now that we have finally gotten to a point where we are able to start to manage these higher level powers, abundance, this, that, all sorts of stuff. Um, this everything that was being given to others is now coming back to us. And then all these people that thought that they had been doing the work by imitating us, now it's all crumbling and they're starting from step one where we started.
Right. So when you say initiation, because maybe we need to have another space about that. I don't really like that word because it has really, really horrible connotations. It's like again with this whole like, oh, you have to go through this kind of okay, let's talk about this next time.
Okay.
What is aligned initiation? Like what would an aligned energetically aligned initiation look like as compared to these out of alignment initiations that they do within some of these different societies and orders and in the industry and all of that, because it seems like yes, there's a toll booth, like everything has a toll booth, there's always a toll booth, but it feels like when specifically using the word initiation, not only is it like I get such a horrible feeling about around it. Like it's got to be there's obviously like initiations you have to go through. So, for example, like an initiation to be a timekeeper means that you have to go through the whole cycle. Like, one of these days coming up is when the new timekeepers are like announced. And so, like, you have to go through this whole cycle of 260 days, taking your notes, observing all of this stuff in order to be qualified to be a timekeeper. It's not like automatic. But when I think of initiation from that perspective, it's like going to school. It's like an education. But when they say initiation, they mean it's a trauma. It's something that's going to be harmful. So we really need to like figure that out, because I think that's just like an ongoing, that's going to be an ongoing, like my brain is not like processing that the way you're saying it. And I know how you're saying it, which is why I'm like, no, that's not what he's saying. He's saying it like an education, like you learn the lessons and that's the initiation. But we have a lot of misaligned initiations that make that term just, we have to really be clear about that, because if not, they're just going to be able to be like, well, this is just our initiation process. What I have to like, again, like with the Aztecs, you got to sacrifice a baby in order to be initiated. We don't, that's, we don't, that's not acceptable. Like, there's got to be other ways to do that. And so it just needs to be like really fleshed out and delineated, that difference between aligned and misaligned initiation. But I know
Yeah,
it's
and I
going to be
and I
like
think
another two
that's
hours.
right, and I think that's just going to be like part of the positions that everyone has in terms of like what did you come into this reality to be? and most people, they just have no idea. So they're not aware that they're going through an initiation. Like, to becoming emperor, like, that's been a very intense initiation. And like, as maybe I would say, maybe the last few years, like, I was aware that it was an initiation. Like, I could feel it, I could sense it. It was when things were getting really tough, I could at least feel better about my situation by knowing that, like, this is for a reason, and not just for any random reason. This is because, as the emperor, like, I gotta master this. If
Right.
I can't master this, these emotions or these feelings, whatever it might be, like, how can I call myself the emperor? How can I? So for me, knowing that, it becoming aware that it was an initiation, helped me to better appreciate the challenges, the difficulties, the heartbreaks, whatever it might have been, because I knew my role. And I think the issue is, right now, is people don't know their roles. They
Right.
don't know, like, what they're really being guided to become. So they don't understand that this is an initiate. Because if we started to see life as an initiation, and specifically an initiation in terms of properly serving God, like, we would be much more embraceful of anything that might be considered negative. But instead, because we don't see it as initiation, anytime there's something negative, we run away from it. We perceive it as a bad thing. We don't perceive it as, like, oh, this actually is good for me. I don't know why. I don't know how this is good for me, but, like, it has to be done. So I think, as obviously people get their charts read, we will have a better understanding of the different positions that everybody's in. Because, if you read 1,000 people's charts, you're going to basically have a very good delineation of, like, all of the roles that exist in the empire. At some point, like, the
Right.
roles, there's maybe 20 roles max in the empire. And based on the charts, we have a very good sense of, like, okay, this person is being initiated to be a priest. This person is being initiated to be a priestess, or a prince, a
Right.
king, an emperor, a merchant, whatever it might be. Um, those initiations are going to be very curated towards those people. The gods that they're going to be working with is going to be very curated towards the the powers that the individual has. So I think that's kind of what I mean in terms of the initiation, is, like, there are going to be initiations, and, like, everyone's role is going to be very clear. That does not mean, obviously, that, oh, you have a you're part of the merchant class, and you're stuck being a merchant. That's not the case. Obviously, we're going to be open to
Right.
allowing people to be whatever it is that they feel called to be. But to give them some sort of guidance initially, it's like, yeah, this is, you don't gotta be running around with your head chopped off. Like, start doing this work.
Right.
If things change, then we'll know. We'll be able to see. We'll be able to tell that their path has changed, or that they've been selected for some other task. There's none of this in this reality. Everyone's just, like, they go to
Right.
college, they get a job, like, they're just mindlessly going around doing God knows what, and they don't even realize that it's all for a greater purpose. So what we're doing is, we're
Right.
giving people a direction. We're giving people a path. It doesn't mean you are restricted to follow that path, but if you're following that path, you're going to get a lot of clarity in terms of where you're at, what you should be doing, what you know what strengths you have, what weaknesses you might have. And then, as the empire continues to grow, like, it's and I think this is where we move from trying to make money to focusing on the energy. So, because if we know
Right.
that you are a merchant, like, we're not going to put you in, I don't know, like, doing farm stuff. Like, we're going to put you in the market. We're going to put you around people that have the ability to guide you and provide you with experiences when it comes to the market. Um,
So let me like describe this to you so you can understand. Like what you're saying is true. There's 20 solar tones in the Zolkin cycle. Solar seals. I'm sorry. There's 20 solar seals. Each of these solar seals has energies and stuff assigned to it. There's 13 tones. So everybody is born on one of these 260 combinations of 20 seals and 13 tones. And every year on your birthday, then you also pick up a new energy, because whatever the tone is for your birthday, then you also like learn about that tone over the next 260 days or whatever, until your 365 days to your next birthday. So you're always picking up new energies as well as the cycles through. So what you're saying is right. Like, they're going to be in one of 20 prototypes, and each of those prototypes has 13 like different flavors. But it's still going to, like, if you're a Aries first house, maybe the next year you're a Pisces eighth house, you're still going to maintain that Aries first house, but now you just add on a Pisces eighth house. And these are all the different parts of yourself. So we can go through and track from the Zolkin and from the astroturography too. I do the same thing. Like, what energies you picked up each year, how those energies should have
Mm.
played out, and where you may have had issues. Because, like I said, there's a reading I only do when people turn 36, because the energy changes every year. But before 36, it's not every year. So I won't do it for anybody under 36. So if people under 36, it's really easy to identify where their problems are so they can be resolved. That's why it's better to have as many young people as possible, because you can identify where their problems are and they can be solved or resolved much more easily. Once you get to be 36, the problems are more complicated because you're cycling through more energy more frequently. And so I think that's what I meant by, I think it's an age thing, because you're still in the phase where the energy is not as fast as me. I'm in the and my friend, she's been dealing with this for years and years. So looking at the difference between how all of these play out, yeah, when you're under 36, you have the full reign to like resolve your issues in the way that you're describing. But once you have to deal with a lot of energy, it's really really hard to like resolve the issue like that. Like, you pretty much have to like spend most of your energy from like 36 to about 54 just trying to figure out how to resolve this energy. This is like one full um a lunar nodal return is about 30 years as well. So you have to really like it takes a while, let me put it that way, to figure out how this energy goes. But when you're younger, it's like one energy per year with a different flavor. When you're older, it's one energy every 36 months. I mean, every 36 days with a different flavor
Mm.
based on all. That's a lot of energy. That's why I mean, I think energetically, there's but again, there's still ways to like resolve all of this stuff, but we just have to keep in mind that there people are coming from different positions. So if I'm talking to a group of young people, I would more imitate or use the language, describe things in the way that you're describing them. Like, if you leave home at 18, right, and because you hate your parents or whatever, something happens, you leave home at 18, before you turn 36, you should go home and resolve that issue. That would be in your best interest because of the way the
Mm.
energy
Right.
works. But if you're 45 or 50 and you think you're going to go home and resolve an issue with nah, the energy is, you have to deal with it internally. Once you turn 36, you have to deal with it internally. Before you turn 36, you can still do it in the external world. Once you turn 36, that whole external world is done. You got to deal with it internally. Because if you don't, just moving the person back in, that's going to create delusion. You're just going to be like, "Oh, well, maybe I was wrong," because remember we're talking about like females who are always second guessing their own selves. So, maybe I was wrong, maybe I over exaggerated. So now you're denying who you are, denying your experience, making excuse. You just turn into an enabler if you try to do it the way that just force yourself into a room with this person. You turn yourself into an enabler, and that's not good either, because then that creates more issues. But you can do that before you turn 36, but once you turn 36, you have to deal with internally. You have to do the deep soul searching in order to resolve the issue. So ideally what we would want for people to do is to resolve these issues young. Like, don't wait until you get 36 to try to resolve the issue with your parents. And
Yes,
that's
right.
where the boomers and the Gen X missed it. They were unable to resolve their issues before they turned 36. So now they have to like resolve them in a different way.
Mhm.
And maybe I've mostly worked with a lot of older people, and so maybe that's why I'm also like looking at it how I've had to help people work through this. I couldn't do it the way that you said. Like, I suggested it, right? And then they would explain like, this is what they did already, this is what they tried, this. And hearing enough of those stories, it's like, okay, that doesn't work. But if you're under 36, yeah, you probably can just go home, have a sit down with your parents, and it's fine. You resolve the issue.
Right. Yeah, I've worked with 2 women actually that had very bad relationships with their parents, and um, one wouldn't even be able to go see her mom. Like, it was that
Right,
bad. She just had such a
right,
horrible view. It was just she was so negative about her mom. And like I
right,
understand, of
yeah,
course, I understand that it was a
right,
difficult childhood and this and that, but like I internally could not allow that to continue. So what I
right,
did was like I pushed her towards like, let's go visit your mom. Like, I'll be the mediator. I'll be the bridge. And like it was basically with her, it was like pulling teeth. Because obviously it's like,
yeah,
oh, well, she didn't do this, she hasn't changed this, she hasn't changed that. But what I was talking to her about is like, this is you. It's how you react. It's how you deal with it. It's how, like, you can
right,
blame the other person all you want, but like, one, it's your mother. Like, there's,
right,
if it's some random high school student that you went to high school with, who gives a fuck? But this
right,
is like, this
right.
is your blood. You got to figure it out. And so in that situation, like how I left it, the situation was a lot more manageable, but she was still unwilling to fully embrace the moment. And as a result, it's still challenging. But the other one, um, she felt called after doing the unconditional love the last like 6 to 7 months. She felt called to forgive her stepfather for something that he did. And the energetic shift that took place after
Yeah.
that call, the only thing he said, he was like, water under the bridge. He said, when are you coming home?
Wow.
She couldn't believe it.
Beautiful.
She couldn't believe, she thought it was he was gonna make her, apologize for all the specific things that she did, and just be off-putting, and the complete opposite. Now, she
Right.
went from never going to their house to she's at their house right now, like
Wow. That's amazing.
reconnecting with the family. And this was a person that not even 6 7 months ago, when I brought up, I was like, you're gonna have to forgive your stepfather. Like,
Right.
no, like, I'm never gonna do that, fuck him, I hope he dies, like, I hope they
Right.
get divorced, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I told her, like, I am telling you right now, you embrace it unconditional love. Like, this is a very clear blockage in your being.
Right.
You are going to forgive him. No, I'm not going to do that. Lo and behold, a few months later, she did it. And now it's like all this baggage that she created for all these years, that created all this discord, just got alchemized. Now, does that mean that he changed? Does that mean that he out of nowhere became a better person?
No,
No,
no, it doesn't
but
work like
but
that.
she stopped, like, she stopped allowing his energy. She instead of blocking that energy, she embraced it. And because she
Right.
embraced it, now she deals with it differently. And because she deals with it differently, he starts to change, right? Because
Right.
we're the creator. So when we go from
Right.
blocking that energy and saying, no, fuck that energy, no, 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 to embracing it, now if he, says some slick remark, she's going to deal with it differently. If he,
Right.
if there's an opportunity for them to, uh, like find something of likeness, she's gonna like there's it's a different energy that she's now coming into the connection with. And as a
Right.
result of that, all these things that seem so insurmountable, now nothing. It was like nothing. So
Right.
that's the one and only time that I have seen that something that seems so difficult to do, the person did the work. They felt called. I didn't tell them to do it. Obviously, months ago, I told them it was going to happen, but I didn't tell them, oh, now you should say apologize. No, she felt it from within. She was called to wish him a happy birthday. She was called
Right.
to then eventually, a few days later, weeks later, call him to apologize for what she did. But
Right.
so that's where I saw that, like, it's a lot of energetic work, but like we are the creators. We are the ones that decide whether we allow these things to continue to happen to, in this case, our family, or
Right.
if we are the ones that break the curses and say no more. I'm not going to act like everyone else has been acting in my family or my bloodline, whatever it might be. So it's in America, it's like everyone has an issue with their family. And what's happening now is, especially like white Americans that kick their kids out at 18, is economically, like a lot of these kids going back to their parents' house because the apartments at the cities are too expensive, or they're getting laid off. So
Right.
imagine these
Right.
kids that basically had not great relationship with their parents are now having to come back home to figure their shit out with their parents. And they're young. These are the young ones.
Right.
Um,
I think the younger ones will have an easier time because their parents are millennials or Gen Xers. It's again, you can't like forget who you're dealing with, and I think that's a part of it too. Like when you're dealing with people who parents abuse them, they're going to be a lot quicker to forgive. Like I think the younger generations are not the ones who are really going to have the problem. Like the Gen Zers, the Gen Xers. I mean, the Gen Zers and the millennials, we pretty much gonna wrap this thing up and get it over with. I'm I guess I'm more concerned about the older generations because they have to when you have to do the internal work. So when you wait till 36, you can't just pick up the phone and make a call because it don't work like that anymore. Now you have to do the work on the inside before it can manifest on the outside. When you're under 36, it's just everything's on the outside because you're giving freely of your energy to a lot of different things. When you turn 36, you just can't afford to do that because of the way the energy works. And so you have to do the work on the inside of understanding like all the different parts of the circumstance before you have to you can't just like go through the motions and think that it's going to work out. Like you have to literally like internalize it. You can't take that part for granted once you get to into the 36 and up when the energy moves differently. And I've seen people who are like older and they're trying to figure out like how to resolve these issues, and they've done the things on the outside, like they go and see their parents and all of this stuff, but because they haven't done the work on the inside, their issue is not really getting resolved.
right.
So I think when you resolve the issue earlier, you also have an earlier opportunity to internalize it. You and like me, okay, this is a perfect example. Like me, I ever have a problem with my dad. Like it was a lot of stuff going on, and I was like, okay, go and handle that. Like that just makes sense to me. But like my brother and my sister, they didn't quite, especially my brother, they didn't quite feel the same way that I felt about it. And so they like held it against him. And I could never do that because I was like, well, he told us he did the best he could. Like, what more do you want from somebody? But like, he couldn't, like, they couldn't really, and my grandmother too was like, they couldn't really internalize that somebody had did the best that they could, but it still wasn't good enough for what that person wanted.
Right.
And so as a result, like me, I'm cool. I'm moving through life and it's moving the way that it's moving. I'm very highly spiritually advanced, right? But my brother and my sister, they're having more like issues, and I'm monitoring them to see what happens as they get into this 36 range, and now they have to start dealing with these energies
Mm.
that come more active to see what the difference is. Because I resolved this thing when I was 18. I was cool because I was like, what am I do? Hold this grudge forever? But I that's just my personality. Like I have a lot of Scorpio, so going through the death doesn't bother me. But if you've never been through the death, then again, it's one of those things that like you need to learn that early, like just to forgive people early, so that like you could just move on with your life. Like I don't have a problem being around anybody in my family, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to consciously make the choice to be around them. That's two totally different things. Certain people, I have a huge family though. Remember, I told you my family reunions is 1,000 people. So this not we're not talking about a small like group of people. This is like hundreds of people. So no, I don't want to be around all these people at one time. A summertime, see them for holidays, that's fine. But like all the time being like our family dinners would be 200 people. Like, can you imagine like 200 people in and out of a house all day, like all eating, not just eating. There was no plates and no everybody sat down to eat. So people was moving. It's just that gets to be overwhelming. So you have to again, like when you have healthy boundaries set up, you can really see like how this stuff is supposed to play out. But at some point we do need to come back and talk about like the initiation thing because I think that is going to come back up. Like because these spiritualists believe that they're entitled to being initiated into they will and no they do they believe they're entitled to being initiated into our energy, like they're
Yeah. No. No.
entitled to
No.
our
No.
energy,
No.
so we have to talk about like what aligned initiation looks like and what misaligned initiation looks like. Just add that to your list
Okay.
at some point to get back to whenever it comes up. But because I think that's going to, as we expand, that's going to come up. I hadn't
Uh
even thought,
huh.
like, I
Right.
just kept saying, "Ooh, this initiation. Oh, why are we talking about initiation?" But it's like, no, we need to know the difference and we need to be clear so that we're communicating with these entities. Hey, don't bring these people to us behaving in this ridiculous, weird way
Mm-hmm. Right.
because that's what they'll do. They'll come in being weird. I don't have time for more weirdness, okay? I'm tired of the weirdness. I'm so tired of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I never got into any of that crap because it's like it just seems like such a it was just all for show. It's like all these people are just for show.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
this I think we can end it here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this was as always a great discussion. Definitely is going to be a big thing because there's people are getting their compensation and a lot of people are not getting like the compensation that they want to get, but it's like, well, you were
No.
entitled, so you don't get nothing.
Right, exactly. You got your entitlement,
Hmm.
so you don't get the compensation. Yep, I it'll be interesting to see how this plays out moving forward too.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, I
fairly
feel it. I
excited.
feel it with these spiritualists. They're like, "Who the fuck is this guy? Like, who does this guy think he is?" But it's like, it's night and day obvious that like there's no comparison. It's like you guys
Right.
might not understand what the fuck I'm doing, but like y'all understand that like I'm on some other level, and that's the compensation. These people are entitled. So for them, it's very challenging to accept someone that actually did the work because it
Right.
forces
Yep.
them to look at themselves and realize, oh fuck, I have not done the work.
Exactly.
I've just
Yep.
I've just been entitled. Okay, awesome. Well, hope you have a great night and
Absolutely.
we'll talk again on Friday.
Absolutely. Have a good week.
Bye.